Come on, it's broken! It's broken!
Maybe the next game we can play at is Goat Simulator. Maybe the next game we can play at is Goat Simulator.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back. Welcome back to SAFRL. It's Tier 2. Missed out on SKR and SAFRL Tier 1 on Sunday and Monday night, but we are back after a few issues. Obviously, this is the Circuit Spa-Francorchamps. This is Season 8, Round 2. Track distance, just a touch over 7 kilometers. Longest race circuit on the calendar. Something like 110 meters worth of elevation change. Maybe 20 corners to keep the drivers busy. No movement in the pits. Of course, just the one qualifying session. Just confirm for me, Mr. M. sometimes get a little confused. Having a short quali or is it a full quali? Of course, if it is just the short quali, then it's just 18 minutes for everybody to get around this circuit. And you've got to bear in mind, you don't get any extra time in qualifying. The 18 minutes remains the same, but the track is that much longer. So it's going to take you longer to get around the circuit, go out, set an out lap, fast lap, get back into the pits. It's going to take you time. So you don't want to spend too much time in the pits. And of course, if we have anyone in the comment section that is in contact with the driver, just try and get some confirmation for us in the comms box about the weather. Obviously, we tend not to know anything until we get to that pit lane. We'd love to know a little earlier if possible. Just confirmation that it is a short quali. I kind of second guessed myself because look, things looked a little quiet in the beginning. Usually we see a frantic pit exit. I tell you, this qualifying session goes by very quickly. Just 16 minutes remaining, so 2 minutes have already gone. Nobody has set a lap time yet. Of course, the Circuit Spa-Francorchamps, one of these circuits to be on the calendar ever since the calendar's inception. First driver to go over the line to start his quick lap. It's going to be the Mercedes of Stoffel. He's going to get some camera time now because he's the first man out on track. Good time to be a Mercedes sponsor. This is Stoffel. This is his first attempt, his first run. As far as the ERS goes, it's a big difference in this game. Doesn't make too much of a difference in qualifying, but in the race, when you're able to recharge that battery as fast as you are now, able to attack so much harder. You don't have to be so concerned about the battery. Obviously in the previous game, depending on the circuit, it could take you multiple laps just to get that battery up to a decent level. This is one of the two Alpines. This is Panda. Alpine making the news recently because they have an open seat and no one seems to want it. And of course, their misfortunes carried through to the Le Mans of 24 hours. The Alpine team, if I'm not mistaken, the one car lasted 5 hours and the other one lasted 6, or something very close to that. So Alpine, just not doing it in F1 and not doing it elsewhere. First driver over the line was Stoffel. It's a 1:45.1. And it's beaten immediately by quite the margin. A 44.0 for Panda, goes into provisional pole. This is the other Alpine. Panda just went up into provisional pole. Let's see what his teammate can do. It's a relatively wide circuit, but it's a very fast circuit, and I think we're going to see penalties when the guys start getting greedy, start trying to use every single bit of the racetrack that they can. They're looking for every tenth that they can find, and it's so easy to go over those white lines and validate the whole lap. And if you're in the race, well, then the warnings add up and the penalties come back to bite. Two McLarens are yet to set lap times. Both of those cars are out on track, as is Top Gun. in the one and only Red Bull. Sort of like Red Bull all the time. The one and only Red Bull. I'm not a Sergio Perez hater. I just want him to come right. That time starting to come in at the top now. Panda still has the fastest lap of the session. That was his first run, a 44.0. Then right behind him also 44.0 is Top Dog in P2, then Top Gun. And then we've got the two Mercedes of Loki and Stoffel in P4 and 5. Rockwell did go over the line. We said the two McLarens hadn't set a lap time. He's the first McLaren to set a lap time, a 1:45.3 on his first attempt. Good enough for P6. Then we have Chums P7 and Tiley Boy. That's not a representative lap time. 2 minutes 02. He must have backed out of that again. Give it another go. This is one of the two Ferraris. Good evening, Andre, in the comments section. Also, welcome Mr. Rem. Welcome to Ian, Death Queen, Skull, everyone that I've seen in the comment section. Welcome to the stream. And if my voice sounds a little off, apologies. I'm doing my best. But I thought it was about time we went live again. Said the two McLarens hadn't set lap times. Rocco went over, set a lap time, good enough for P8, and now his teammate, well, he's jumped the field. He's gone up into P1. It's a 43 point. Is that a 6 or an 8? I'll let you know. That is a 6. So a 1:43.6. That means he's 4 tenths faster than anybody else on circuit so far. We're still waiting for lap times from Skull, Pantry Star, and Pointies. Chums returns to the pits, having set a 1:47.9. It's good enough for P11. This is one of the two Ferraris. Spikes the other Ferrari up in P7. Skull yet to set a lap time. Right on board with the Ferrari. Is this a quick lap? If it is a quick lap, going a little bit too close to the cars ahead of him. Of course, you've got to make sure you've got the space on the circuit. You don't want to run into anybody when you're trying to go your absolute fastest. Skull still looking for that first lap time. The front though, McLaren looking good. And as I say that, Ferrari comes to spoil that party. A 1:43.4 is the new fastest lap of the session. And guys are going to have to step it up if they want to get onto that front row. The only two drivers on the grid so far in the 43s cover the front row. The next best is a 44.0, followed by a 44.0. So just 600ths of a second covering that second row. Things very close there. Then the third row, Top Gun and Loki, both those cars in the pits. Skull did manage to get a lap time in. It was good enough for P7 at 1:44.5. And now I think the whole field has set a lap time. There we go, Pantry Star, the latest car to get into the timing sheet. So 1:44.4. Look how close those laps are. Everyone besides the front row. They're in the 43s. Everybody else trying to get into the 43s. Stoffel was looking good not so long ago. I think he was in P6, just behind his teammate. Now he's been pushed down all the way to P11. That just shows you the closeness of the field. If you're 5 or 6 tenths off, a lot of cars can fit within that 5 or 6 tenths. Spikes in the second Ferrari returns to the pits, and so far returns to the pits victorious, leads the field. Still lots can change. Maggot currently in P2, he was the first driver of the evening to get us into the 43s. Spikes found another 2 tenths. Let's see if Maggot's got a little bit more. Well, he's taking a shortcut. He's taking a shortcut, and we got to see it here on stream. Yes, and that was my voice briefly going into Batman mode. That's why I'm speaking quite loudly, because every time I try and speak softly, well, Spikes, leader of the session in the pits, and as I say leader of the session, he's no longer the leader of the session. He's going to have to come out and beat that. Panda goes quickest, it's not by much, it's a 43.3, so he's moved the goalpost but just by a tenth. And remember, I said it's a long racetrack, so that's why the guys are taking shortcuts. They need to get back to the pits to have that final run. The order so far: Panda, Spikes and Maggot. Those 3 times just 3 tenths apart. Stoffel was able to improve, went up into P5 and then retired from the session, so I don't think we're going to see any more of that Mercedes, at least. The other Mercedes is Loki. He remains in the pits for now. The RB of Gotzi currently in P10. 144.9, so he's got a lot of time to find if he wants to improve. Time just ahead of him is a 144.5, so he's going to have to find 4 tenths of a second just to pick up 1 position, but once he does that, the times are awfully close. He needs 4 tenths improvement as a minimum. Anything over that, it's going to be a big bonus. Times very close together. Not if you're at the front. Panda leads the way. Spikes very close behind in P2, but he remains in the pits. The top 3 remain in the pits. Fastest of the drivers on the timing sheet out on track at the moment is Top Gun. Top Dog rather. This is Top Gun. Currently in P6, 144.3. Looking for an improvement, looking for a 43, wants to get himself into the 43s. Only 3 drivers have been able to do that so far this evening. Panda, Spikes, Maggot, your top 3. The next best time is Top Dog, 44.0. Just not quite. Top Gun needs to be on his best performances, because he is the only Red Bull representative. Doesn't want to get beaten by 2 RBs now, does he? Can't help myself, but it would be a Perez situation. Your order: Panda, Spikes, Maggot, Top Gun, Top Dog. Those are your top 5. I'm gonna get confused between those 2. I already know it. Top Dog, Top Gun. Pantry Star, P7, Loki 8, Skull coming out of the pits. Currently he is in P9. 144.5. Oh, he's quicker than that. And the field is so close, any sort of improvement can jump him multiple positions. Where are the top 3 drivers? Panda's still in the pits. Don't know if he's going to have enough time to get out. Don't think he will. It's a long racetrack. And there we go. He is out of the pits. Ooh. That's not what you want to see. Okay, as you can see on your screens, something has gone wrong. So if you're in contact with the drivers, let me know. Is the race still going on, or have I been kicked from the lobby? Because something does not look quite right here. All the cars have, yeah, I don't know what that was. So let me know. I don't know what to do. Do I leave and rejoin? Not quite sure what happened. Panda giving a confirmation. I was worried it was my internet going absolutely insane, but apparently a lobby crash. So I don't know if I've seen that before. Well, do we start a new lobby, or I have no idea what's going on. Apologies about that. We were ramping up for a pretty good quali session, and then right at the end there, with 2 minutes to go, everything that could go wrong did. Yeah, I'm just trying to leave. There we go. We'll obviously wait for a new invite, and we'll await further instructions. We don't know what will happen now. Obviously qualifying was almost over, but it didn't get to finish. A lot of those drivers, they're not going to have their final run. So off we go into a new lobby, and hopefully that doesn't happen again, because it was quite scary. All the cars went off the circuit in different directions, and some stopped moving entirely. So we will simply await an invite. Apologize for the delay, but that is a few gremlins in F124. Of course, whoever's making the new lobby, remember to invite your commentator. Seems like we do have an invite, so let's give it a go. It can be quite frustrating. It's frustrating for you guys watching because that was building up to be quite the end to the session. But it's even more frustrating for the drivers. If they know they had that little bit extra, if they know on that previous lap wasn't great, could have had better traction over there, or they could have braked later over there, or they just missed an apex. They'll know exactly what they did wrong, and they would have been hoping for that final run to fix things. But as we all saw, nobody got the opportunity. With just 2 minutes remaining in the session, everything went insane. And obviously, if you're watching and you're wondering what's going on, because this is about the time you would tune in for the start of the race. We're not yet at the start of the race, we're actually looking at a lobby screen. But we will be underway shortly. We got a lobby crash. I've got to say, I haven't seen that before, and I've commentated on 1 or 2 races, and I haven't actually seen a crash to that extent. I've seen basically the screen go blank, but I haven't seen everybody's car crash simultaneously. Of course, it is something that a lot of people don't think about, but with more and more electronics coming into the car, I think it was the Formula E, they are currently testing their new 3rd generation car, and in pre-testing a few months ago, when testing that car for the first time, well, they had to bring the car back to the pits in safe mode. Basically what happened was that the car, whatever software it was that was required on that particular part of the car, got an update. And you wouldn't believe it, the update broke the car. Of course, F1 does also have a hybrid element, but it is not fully electrical, still has a combustion engine to a degree, whereas Formula E is fully electric. Formula 1 cannot go fully electric, well, at least until the year 2050. If F1 wants to go fully electric before that, well, the FIA would have to organise some sort of a merger. Basically, Formula E do have the rights to be the premier electric series. So if Formula 1 ever wants to go fully electric, they either have to wait for 2050 or they have to merge with Formula E, and I don't know how many people would like that very much. We are in a new lobby, and we are awaiting further instructions. Don't know what's going to happen next. I think what will happen, I don't want to make this call, but I think what will happen is we may have a custom grid. And how that will work is basically the lobby host, the guy that's in charge of this all, he will look at the qualifying results when the lobby crashed and try and set an order based on that. I'm not quite sure what steps they will take to figure out who's going to start where. Whatever you do, don't have a one-shot quali. One-shot quali. It's like a penalty shootout in soccer. It's not really about the skill. You just need to get it wrong, and it's all over. You get one go at it. Having a look at the lobby there, already a few guys readying up. I'm not sure what the next step will be. Mr. M's a spectator, or if he's a driver. If he's a driver, he needs to select his car. There we go, spectator. And if you have just joined us, it's SAFRL Season 8, Round 2. We had a quick end, unexpected end to qualifying. 2 minutes remaining in qualifying. Things were really starting to ramp up for who's going to get on that front row, and more importantly, who's going to get on pole. But the opportunity to see that battle was taken away from us. And what we got instead was havoc on our screens. And with my luck, I didn't commentate on Monday night, and the lobby was probably perfect. Fortunately, it's just something we have to deal with. That's the downside of tech. Sometimes it just doesn't work. I didn't see that earlier on, Mr. M. I apologize, but Mr. M actually commented that there might be rain in quali. But we didn't see any rain in quali, and we saw quali until there was 2 minutes remaining. Didn't see any raindrops or any threat. But now with the new lobby, obviously whatever was going to happen in the race weather-wise could change. Everybody readying up, and I think that means we'll be underway shortly, just waiting for Rakwa, but the clock's gonna beat him to it. Well, the commentator said don't do that, and that's what they did. We're having a one-shot quali session. Probably the most difficult thing to commentate on. Everybody's going to have just the one opportunity to go around the circuit. One opportunity to stitch together the perfect lap. And even if you're a driver who expects to be on pole, this can go awfully wrong. Of course, if you're a viewer and you're not quite sure how this format will work, at least on your screens, you're only going to be able to see one car at a time, and that timing sheet on the left gives you an indication of who's currently fastest on circuit. So you want your name to be with the number 1 next to it throughout the lap. And there we go. That's how it happens. really quickly. See the car shuffling around, that's what I mean. It just means where the car is right now on the circuit. We're going to try go to the leader, currently the fastest man on the circuit. Of course, this leaderboard just shows you where the drivers are. Can't see more than one car at a time, so those cars are actually awfully close together, probably split by a couple of tenths and in some cases a couple of hundredths. But it's a 7-kilometer circuit. That's what makes it even more impressive when the times are so close. Different setups, different drivers, 7 kilometers to work with, and at the end they come out a tenth apart. Apologies for the flashing on the screen, that is not my internet connection. That is the game, every time you switch between cars, just like that. He's had a fantastic lap so far. He led Sector 1 and now he's leading Sector 2, going into the final part of the racetrack. Now Sector 3 just needs to keep the rest of the lap together. And of course, what the one-shot quali has done, it means that we haven't really lost that much more time. It's like having an extra safety car. Loki, he does get the pole. It's a 1:43.5, very impressive lap time. Panda P2 and Top Dog makes up the top three. Of course, it's a very harsh way of qualifying. One mistake means you could start right at the back. There are your official results. Loki takes pole position with a 1:43.5. It's followed by Panda and Top Dog. Spikes P4. Then we've got Pantristar and Gotzi. Maggot and Skull P7 and 8. Stoffel and Boinkies 9 and 10. And then with a bit of work to do, Top Gun 11, Rockwa 12, Tiley Boy 13, and Chums. It's going to start from the rear of the field. We're looking at the pit lane. Usually, if you've been watching last season and the season before that, we usually just get underway abruptly after looking at this pit lane. I believe tonight that will not be the case. I believe we do have a formation lap this season. Gives everybody a chance to go around, get some temperature into the tires, get some temperature into the brakes, make sure you get things optimally set up for turn 1. Don't want to be approaching turn 1 with cold tires. There we go, just confirmation on your top left of your screen, formation lap. Of course, if you're at the front in such a long race circuit, you don't want to get too far away. Get too far away, it means you're going to sit on that grid for an awfully long time. In the comment section for Skull and Spikes, those are the two Ferrari drivers. They're in P4 and P8, the teammates, separated by the pair of RBs and Maggot. Not a very useful strategy predictor there, thank you very much. Useless, useless, useless. So we've got a choice between a one-stop, and you wouldn't believe it, a one-stop. Thank you, game. What would I do without all this info at my fingertips? Thank you, game. Welcome to the other panda. Well, it's productive panda, but if I call him productive panda, then it means the other panda is not very productive. He's currently productive, he's up in P2. Gonna ask Panda as well when he intends to join me in the comms box again. Obviously just had the one run. I think it was a pretty good one. Need to arrange to get Panda into the comms box again. Of course, after the race, top 3 drivers and driver of the day, and have a short interview. What you want to do is go to the NFR Discord and join the cool down room after the race, and I'll pick you up from there. Of course, that is a new feature on your PlayStation 5. If you are on PlayStation, you can now join Discord from your party chat screen. So everyone should be able to join, of course, if they want to and they're not shy of the mic. Oh well, they're beeping twice, isn't that fun? 5 red lights. We're about to get underway, and there we go. You see all the smoke? That's cars trying so hard to find some traction into turn 1. Panda leads the way. Wow. We've got a 10-second penalty for a severe collision. We didn't see the severe collision, but Rockway is out of this race immediately, and for some reason we have not only a safety car, but the game wants you to know there's a safety car. So it's flashing the yellow insanely. Not the race start anyone would have wanted, especially if you're that McLaren. Out of the race immediately. I've just put time into this. Put some time practicing, getting ready for the evening. Then obviously spend that 20 minutes or so in qualifying, trying to get up the field, trying to get the perfect lap time. And then before you arrive at turn 1, it's all over. You can only imagine what that is like for the real F1 drivers, flying halfway around the world, doing all the practice sessions, doing the quali, and then retiring on lap 1. Panda leads the field at the first safety car. I was going to say the very first safety car. Well, it's lap 1. So we couldn't have had an earlier safety car, or it would have been in qualifying. Turn 1 at this circuit is a tricky one. Where so many drivers see an opportunity to make up so many positions at the start. You either go for a gap you think is there, or you land up running awfully wide. That corner sometimes gives you the impression you have more space than there actually is, especially on turn 1 of lap 1. I'm just going to take a 1 lap break to try and get my voice back. I'll be with you shortly. There we go, we're back. The racing isn't back, or is it? Yes, it is. No, it's not. Where's the safety car? Can't see it. Are we back underway? We are back underway. Or are we back underway? Not quite sure. We've got a caution into turn 1. Well, the screen was still showing safety car when it clearly wasn't the safety car, and we are underway. Panda leads the way from Top Dog. Then we got Loki in P3, Spikes P4. That's the first of the 2 Ferraris. And look at this, going for moves early on. Panda from Top Dog, Loki P3. That now it's Spikes P4, Pantry Star P5. Then we've got Maggot knocking on the door of the top 5. Gutsy P7, Skull P8. Pointies and Top Gun making up the top 10. Stoffel, Tiley Boy and Chums find themselves outside the top 10 in the early stages of the race. But back at the front, Panda leads the way, but he's coming under all sorts of pressure. He's got a horse all over the back of him. He's got a Mercedes buzzing around in the mirrors as well. It's a long queue behind him, but this is very early days. Bring up some info so the viewers can have a better idea of who's doing what. And while there's not much variation there at the top of the field, seems like everybody's doing pretty much the same thing, the entire field for the most part, starting on the softs. Even Rakwa, who retired on lap 1, his intention was to start on the softs. Having a bit of wheel to wheel now. Panda in Alpine holding on to that lead. We've got a Mercedes facing the wrong direction, and that was Loki. We can see him, he's just falling down the auto, but he has been able to get going again, and his front wing does appear to be intact, so he'll be able to have another go. The 2 Selbers, unfortunately, they're at the rear of the field. They'll want to get themselves up into the points. Is this going to be 3 wide? Oh goodness, it is going to be 3 wide. That was a carbon copy of... That looked like Mika Häkkinen versus Michael Schumacher while overtaking Ricardo Zonta. It was one of the... If you haven't seen it, after the race, well, you're already on YouTube. After the race, just type in Michael Schumacher versus Mika Häkkinen versus Ricardo Zonta. It's one of F1's best overtakes of all time. Ricardo Zonta, the left car, trying to stay out of the way of the leaders. The leaders going either side of the left car. And I won't tell you who came out on top of the pass. You need to go watch the video. Top Dog is the new leader at the front of the field. And we have Spikes in P2 and Panda, who led the race, now down in P3. Gonna start coming under pressure from Pantry Star in the RB. Seeing fastest laps for everyone. That's because the tyres are finally starting to come alive. The drivers are finally starting to get into a bit of a groove. Gaps are starting to form. Drivers starting to have a, well, it's not really gaps, but starting to fall into the flow of the race rather than the insanity of the first few laps. Ferrari on a horse. Ferrari power versus Ferrari power, wheel to wheel through the chicane. Who's going to come out on top? I was going to say I think it's the Ferrari, but the horse isn't going to give up. Goes to the outside as much as possible, but I think he got a wheel on the gravel. Still doing a fantastic job to hold on to P2. But we've seen it yet again. It's flashing. We know what that means. We know what it means. We're under safety car. Again. On lap 5 of 22. those yous watching, let me know. What are your predictions? We're gonna have to have a little bit of interaction because we're under safety car, and for some reason I don't think this is gonna be the last safety car of the race. Things have been messy, and at this circuit, such a quick circuit, a lot of the drivers will go for a lower downforce setup, and when you have almost nothing on that rear wing, it's just so easy to make a mistake. All of the cars coming into the pits. This is really gonna mix things up a little bit. Obviously a lot of drivers started on the soft, would have been looking to end the race on the mediums. Now it's going to be interesting to see what the drivers do. It looks like hards, not for Top Dog. Top Dog's coming out on a set of mediums, but I see quite a few drivers there. Spikes, Panda, Maggot, Gotzi, all of them going on the hard, and I can only assume they're going to try and go right to the end of the race. I think that hard tyre will be capable of that distance. Other drivers going with the medium. May seem like a strange choice, but if you do expect further safety cars, maybe stretching that medium to the end of the race isn't going to be such a difficult feat. Welcome also Don Ravico. Don Ravico in the comment section rather than in the cockpit. Mercedes driver, well, one of the Mercedes drivers, the latest DNF in the race, that was Loki. Saying he had some sort of an incident with a Red Bull. It's always good to have Don Ravico in the comment section. He gives the information out quickly, and it's good information because he's a quick driver. You wouldn't want to get information from me. The only information I can give you is how to finish a lap, how to finish a race 2 laps behind. It's not a long course at all. It's very simple, really. Drive badly. That's all I know how to do. Of course, the circuit Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium. Belgium, the birthplace of Max Verstappen. Those of you who don't know, Max Verstappen was born in Belgium. Of course, his mother comes from Belgium, his father comes from the Netherlands. And since he grew up in the Netherlands, that's the flag he decided to represent. But we could have very well had the Belgian national anthem on the podium every other week. I can't envision that because, sorry Belgium, I don't know what your anthem sounds like. Of course, if you watch the game at the Euro 24 between Netherlands and Austria, it's quite entertaining watching those two teams line up for their national anthems. It felt like a Sunday afternoon. And if you're not a Hamilton, if you're not a Verstappen fan, well, those anthems will give you the chills. a addition to the F124 game. Apparently the safety car now flashes. So in case you didn't know there was a safety car, it's just letting you know. I would have preferred a helicopter cam, maybe a weather forecast for the spectators. Instead they gave us flashy safety car. Ravico just saying he thought that was a glitch. I've seen that basically on every single safety car in this game. At some point it will flash. It usually flashes just before the safety car goes in, and it flashes on that first lap. We are at the restart. It's going to be Stoffel versus Spikes into turn 1. No madness. Everybody holding station into turn 1. Last thing we want is another frantic start and another safety car. Lap 8 of 22, let's get on with it. We haven't even reached the double digits. Ravico saying someone has crashed. Let's go to the rear of the field. We have Top Gun in the Red Bull, and he's 20 seconds adrift from the rest of the field, so I assume that is the car that had the off-track incident. That may be the Red Bull that Loki came to blows with. Ferrari and a Red Bull and a Mercedes making contact? That's impossible. Spikes leads the way. Top Gun. Ooh, what was that? That was either carbon fiber or it was a brake marker. We saw something flying across the screen there briefly. Panda P3, Stoffel P4, DRS is now enabled. Drivers will be happy to see that. DRS gives you such an advantage. Of course, in 2026 we will lose DRS. We are under a caution, and hopefully that's all it is. And there we go, it goes away. We can breathe again. Top Dog leads the way from Spikes, Panda P3, then Stoffel and Pantry Star 4 and 5. Cars still fighting amongst themselves for positions. Ooh, RB losing position there. Won't be too happy with that. Got caught out by the McLaren up the inside. Maggot into P5 now. It's the second Ferrari of Skull. It's at the rear of what is a DRS train. Difficult place to be. DRS is supposed to give you an advantage, supposed to give you that opportunity to get past the car ahead of you, but when all the cars ahead of you have DRS, things become a lot more difficult. Gotsy just ahead of Skull. He's got to be careful, doesn't want to fall off that DRS train. When you're in the DRS train, it can just tow you around. The moment you're out of it, you could be out of it. This is the Haas leading the way. Spike Speed 2, Top Dog gets the fastest lap of the race. It's also in the lead of the race. He's on a relatively fresh set of mediums. comment section saying that the mediums should be able to go to the end quite easily because some of those laps were under safety car. If you are worried about the tyres falling off at the end, well then Spikes is in a great position because he's in P2, he's on the hard. Those tyres definitely won't drop off to the end, they'll have the life to go to the checkered flag. So if Top Dog does encounter any issues with those tyres in the closing laps, Spikes is going to be able to pounce, but he's only going to be able to pounce if he doesn't let that gap get too big. At the moment, it's 2.8 seconds. Spike's falling into a bit of a bubble. 2.7 seconds up the road is the leader, and then 3 seconds in the other direction is P3. So having a race of his own now. Sometimes it's nice just to get some free air, some clean air. Just do a few laps, get your head into it. Maybe he's not managing the tires. His tires can go much longer. Well, that's a stat I did not know. Don Rabico saying that the hard could, well, finish the race from the starting grid. No pit stop needed. Of course, we have seen examples of both extremes in Formula 1. We've seen examples where tyres became so durable that we had to introduce, well, it's not a mandatory stop. The rule suggests that you have to use 2 compounds. And that was initially put in place because, well, the tyres were lasting too long. Then they decided, let's make them last shorter, and then they lasted no time at all. And now F1 has found some sort of a balance. P3 is pantry star. P1 is comfortable, P2 is comfortable, but P3 is far from comfortable. He's got a McLaren all over the back of him, he's got an Alpine all over the back of him. Very, very strange stories coming out of Alpine lately. At Renault, if the 2026 engine is not a success, well, they're thinking of pulling out, but not pulling out, they want to pull out as an engine manufacturer. And well, that's just confusing. Would the Renault team be powered by something else? I think the best part of that story, we're under safety car, but I think the best part of that story would be if somehow the Alpine, or the Renault F1 team, whatever you want to call them, landed up using Red Bull engines. Wouldn't that be full circle? Yes, Rabico, I share your disappointment. We are indeed under safety car. Didn't see the safety car initially. I was looking down at my controller, and then when I looked up I was like, oh, we're in the safety car again. You see, if you're at the rear of the field, this is going to make your race a little more interesting. You can go into the pits, get yourself a fresh set of tyres. You're going to be at the rear of the field anyway. You're going to be able to catch up to that queue, and when the safety car does get going again, you're going to have, what, 5-6 laps fresher tires than everybody else on track. You can see there everyone in the top 7 chose to stay out on track and hold on to track position. The next 4 cars, that's P8, 9, 10 and 11, they all came into the pits for fresh tires. Skull got a fresh set of hards, that'll go to the end of the race. But then Stoffel, Top Gun and Chums, well, they're going to attack at the end of the race. Those 3 cars have gone on the softs. To box or not to box, that is the question. Well, it's too late now. I think if you committed to a pit stop, if you haven't, if you've committed to holding on to track position, what this will also do is help Top Gun and Pantry Star, their medium runners. If they had any concern of the tyre falling off in any way, this will eliminate some of those concerns. Another good thing that the safety car does if you're a driver is if you've underfueled, safety car really lets you get away with it. Problem is sometimes you underfuel, waiting for that safety car, and it never comes. Trying to save up fuel in these cars, not the easiest thing, especially when you're trying to be competitive in a field like this. And there we go, Ravico, it's flashing again. It's an addition to the game, not one I think EA meant to put there. It's still an addition. Hopefully that can be corrected soon. If any of the viewers at home have epilepsy, they're not going to enjoy that. Please don't have any seizures while watching my stream. Comments saying that the hard runners now are the cars in a good position. His tyres are going to come into their own now in the final stint of the race. Hopefully this is the final stint of the race. I believe this is the 3rd safety car, and if I'm not mistaken, we can have up to 5. I have commentated on races with 5 safety cars, and you wouldn't believe it, they threw in a virtual or 2 as well. Of course, the most safety cars I've ever had was here in Belgium. We landed up having approximately 6 laps of racing. Safety car has pulled off into the distance. There again, just showing, still showing safety car on the screen, and the guys are about to get underway. There we go. It's a fantastic restart from Top Gun. It's already got 1.6 seconds on the exit of turn 1. Spikes. Ooh. That was very cheeky, but very nicely done. Could have gone very, very wrong. We could have seen 2 cars flying in the wrong direction up Radion. I almost called it Eau Rouge, and then I briefly remembered the meme. The meme that annoyed us all. That's Radion, actually. talking about the tire temps and the hards being cold after the safety car. Now why that is the softer the compound, the easier it is to get temperature into it. And if you've been driving around oh so slowly and trying to avoid your competitors and keep your front wings intact under the safety car, you're definitely not going as fast as you can, and you're definitely not doing what those tires were built to do. So they're running around at cold temperatures, then suddenly the safety car goes in and you head off into turn one at racing speed, and those tires just aren't ready for you. That's why, at least in these initial stages, the advantage should be with the drivers on the softer compounds. And of course, keep your eyes on Stoffel, Top Gun and Chums. They should have a big advantage at the end of the race. Saw something pop up on the screen, almost for a second said, oh no, but luckily it's just DRS being re-enabled. It's lap 15 of 22. Once we get to lap 19, you can breathe easy. We're in the safe zone. No more safety cars after lap 19. But we're still on lap 15. And there's still cars going side by side. It's Red Bull versus McLaren versus Ferrari. And look at that. Briefly, I thought we were going to go 4 wide. This is going to get messy, is it? Stoffel able to hold on to things. Skull running out of road. He has to go to the gravel. Luckily for him, he's able to keep that Ferrari pointing in the right direction. Doesn't have a spin and doesn't meet the barrier. So he's still going to be able to come back into this race. Not a lot of time. Lap 15 of 22. Hopefully no more stoppages in this race. We have had 3 stoppages in this race. Pantry Star doesn't have the pace he needs to stay with Top Gun. That gap 3.3 seconds, and he is coming under pressure from the drivers behind. All of those drivers behind him, 9 lap old hard tires. Those tires are going to come into their own. We said they had the disadvantage at the beginning because of the tire temperatures. Those tires will be well up to temperature, and they'll probably be in a little bit better shape than the mediums. I don't think we've seen the end of the hard runners just yet, but if they are going to do something in this race, they need to clear Pantry Star, because Top Dog is getting away at the front. 3.3 seconds, having a comfortable race. Stoffel going off the circuit a little bit there. Now he's coming under pressure from the Red Bull. That Red Bull, not sure, we didn't see the incident, we just got a little bit of information, but I think that Red Bull has already tangled with one of the Mercedes this evening, doesn't want to tangle with the other one. For now, Stoffel ahead of the Red Bull, and just ahead of them on the road we've got some racing. It's Boinkies versus Maggot. They went side by side briefly, jostling for position, and then just ahead of them we've got that DRS train heading up to P3 now. So that means Panda was able to get past on the hard compound. He's up into P2, and now it's going to be a race of the mediums versus the hards. Top Dog versus Panda. Gap currently 3.8 seconds. Top Dog, that's not going to help him at all. 3 seconds for multiple warnings. That'll be for corner cutting, so the gap there 3.7 seconds, but in reality the gap is 0.7 of a second. It's made things a lot easier for Panda. Now Panda doesn't need to catch and pass Top Dog for the lead of the race. All he needs to do is close that gap within, well, below 3 seconds, and he'll have this race all stitched up. That is, bearing in mind, if he's able to shake off the RB of Pantry Star, which is all over the back of his underperforming Renault engine. Luckily for all of us watching and for the quality of the racing, these cars are all set to equal. If they were not, I think it would be pretty difficult to convince some of these drivers to spend a season at Haas. Robico, there we go. Pantry Star is back up into P2, so I'm just getting the comments a little bit delayed here. Unfortunately, I think the stream just running a little bit more delayed than usual, but saying that's bad news for Top Dog. Well, Pantry Star gets himself back up into P2 on those mediums. Those hard runners in P3, 4 and 5 that should be making the most of that compound right now and trying to reel in the leader. They're battling not for P1, but they're battling for P2. They need to clear this RB, otherwise the leader, he's just going to clear off, and unless he makes some sort of a big mistake, it's going to take something unheard of. 5.6 seconds the gap. And Pantry Star, he still leads that DRS train. Whatever he's doing it right. Of course, in previous versions of the game, it would be a lot more difficult to defend like this because the battery drains and then it's so difficult to get it back. Battery able to charge a lot quicker on F124 as a result of on the previous 2 or 3 installments of the game. DRS would only charge up when you applied pressure to the brake pedal. Now you also get a charge for lifting. That was in fact part of one of the previous games, and then it was taken away. It is back now, and you can assist that battery by lifting. That's why we see them also charging up as quickly as we do. Top Gun out front. We're not giving him any coverage because he's all alone. He's having a Max Verstappen 2023 race. Well, all except for Singapore. We don't talk about Singapore. At the front, Top Dog gap has actually come down ever so slightly, 4.9 seconds, but just surely they're going to run out of road. Spikes is now in P2 and he's looking 7/10 of a second, so he's got a relative gap to Pantry Star, and Pantry Star has his hands full with a McLaren as well. So if he's thinking of retaking P2, he's got somebody annoying him in the mirrors. Going to have to deal with the one before he can deal with the other, and I think the McLaren has got the better of him. Yes, he has. McLaren well ahead and challenging the Ferrari. So we don't have much of a battle for the lead, but we definitely have a battle for P2, and what this does is this just helps Top Dog to the victory even more. Got that 3-second penalty. It was terrible news for him, but now that the gap has grown to almost 5.5 seconds, he's in the clear again, and as the fight for P2 continues, these drivers will simply trip over themselves and let the leader drive off into the distance. Now Maggot takes over at the front of that battle, goes up into P2, and when he gets there, he's going to see a 5.5 second gap. And surely there's not going to be that sort of an advantage in that McLaren. He'd have to do something amazing. But first he has to shake off the Ferrari. And if the Ferrari just starts coming back at him, well, then the win is completely out the window. Remember, that 5.4 second gap just needs to come down below 3 seconds. It's not going to help Maggot much. He has a 3-second penalty of his own. But unfortunately for Spikes, that gap between the leader and P2 just a little too big. If that gap was smaller, Spikes could potentially be in the lead of this race. As things stand, He would steal P2. Maggot might actually lose a few positions because he's got a 3-second penalty and a DRS train behind him. Could potentially go down all the way to P6 or 7. Now RB versus McLaren, side by side. McLaren comes out on top. There was a bit of a slide. Nice to have a little bit of a slide every now and then. Just wakes the driver up, gets the adrenaline pumping. Just if you're getting too much into a bit of a comfort zone, well, it just reminds you, wake up. Well, if you're falling asleep during an F1 race, then you've got no hope at Le Mans. Top Dog clearly out in front. Spikes P2, Maggot P3. Now that Spikes is in P2, you can have a look at that gap. You'll know the driver ahead of him's got a 3-second penalty. So the gap is 5.6 seconds. It looks like it can't be closed at this late stage of the race. But he doesn't need the 5.6 seconds. All he needs is 2.6 seconds and he can win this race. Top Dog will be very well aware of that, and he'll be doing everything he can to make sure that gap stays above 3 seconds, and he's doing more than he needs to at the moment. The gap's 5.9. But if he were to pick up another one at this late stage, he'd be in a very tricky position. Said either at the beginning of the race or in qualifying, I think it was in qualifying, that we may see a lot of penalties on this circuit. It's a quick circuit, guys looking for all the time they can find and sometimes just abusing those white lines a little bit too much. Didn't see as many penalties as I thought we would, as have been pretty well behaved. Of course, a lot of the race was spent under safety car. Not as easy to cut the corners under safety car. Well, unless you're a bit of a clown. And if you did get one of those penalties under safety car, apologies for calling you a clown, but you are a bit of a clown. You can see the tyre marks there on the gravel on the outside. That was earlier on, that was Skull. Just ran out of road, had to go wide. Luckily for him, damage was minimized. Was able to get back on track without any sort of a spin, and that's a penalty. Who's that for? That's for Panda. So Panda puts 3 seconds on him. And look at the gap behind. Look at the gap behind Panda. That 3-second penalty is going to break his result. He's going to lose 3 positions. I think what will be better is for us to wait until those official results. I'm not going to try and mathematically tell you who is where. What I can tell you is that Top Dog leads the race. Just to get confirmation on the penalties, all the penalties you see on screen are 3-second penalties, so nobody's added to their initial 3-second penalty. It's lap 22 of 22. We don't have much longer to go. 5.7 seconds the gap at the front, so Top Dog leads the race by 2.7 seconds, if you want to say that. Spikes P2, and then Maggot P3, but Spikes will be able to breathe a little bit easier because Maggot behind him does have a penalty, so even if he does squeeze past him on track, he'll be able to retake that position and take those points anyway. Then we have the 2 RBs, Pantry Star and Gotzi. It's getting a little complicated now. Almost called them Alpha Tauris, and then I realized there's no Alpha Tauris on track. Up front, things look pretty easy for Top Gun. 5.5, Top Dog rather, 5.5 seconds. Just needed to keep it above the 3, and he's done that. and he's going to go over the line, and he's done enough. 5.7 seconds the gap at the end. That's going to come down to 2.7. There we go, 2.7, Spikes P2, Maggot P3. That might still change as cars come over the line. He's able to hold on to it. The top three drivers, Top Gun, Spikes, and Maggot. Maggot is also your driver of the day. There we go, there are your official results. Top Dog takes the victory after starting P3 on the grid. Then Spikes takes P2, Maggot P3. They're followed by Pantry Star, Gotsy, Boinkies, Panda, Top Gun, Stoffel, and Skull, taking up the final point. Chums finished the race, but he finished in P11. Then we had the 3 DNFs of Tidy Boy, Loki, and the very, very early incident of Rakwa. Of course, now we will go to the cooldown room. The top 3 drivers, of course, if you would like to be interviewed, you can join the cooldown room on the NFR Discord server, and I will bring you into the comms box. So just a reminder of the top 3, if you'd like to come in for an interview, those are Top Dog, Spikes, and Maggot. We also invite the driver of the day, but Maggot took that award as well. Alright, I can confirm we have Maggot in the cooldown room, and he's alone in the cooldown room. So we're going to bring him in to the comms box. Welcome to the comms box, Maggot. You can just maybe mute your TV in the background, because we're going to be able to hear ourselves. There we go. Welcome to the comms box. You had an interesting race. Driver of the day and P3, and that penalty came back to bite.
Yeah, it did, but it's okay. It's my own stupid mistake, so I learn from it and move on. But yeah, the one lap, the one shot quality kind of messed me up. It's up for a front row start.
I tend to compare the one shot quali to a penalty shootout in a soccer game. You know, you could be the best on the night, but it really just takes one mistake. And yeah, so one shot quali, it's obviously a difficult way to start. And then in the race, just must have been difficult to, at least in the earlier stages, just to get some sort of a into a tune, you know, because you'd get going for a lap and a half and back under safety car.
Tire temps were very difficult. They were still below 60 milliliters, basically 15 each safety car restart, so getting it in was quite difficult. It took the gamble on the, I think it was the second or third safety car, jumped in from mediums, needed to get me in.
It was a good race, and you picked up driver of the day. Unfortunately, we don't get a point for driver of the day, but that would be a little addition. But I see no one else is in the cooldown room, so either guys are scared of the microphone or not quite sure. But obviously, this is something new that we've introduced, and hopefully, it's going to get more popular over time. We'd like to get, you know, all 3, 4 if the driver of the day doesn't happen to be on the podium as well. And yeah, I want to say, Maggot, thanks. And yeah, we'll see you on track again next week.
Thank you for your comments. Always enjoyable to watch.
Are you racing in? Are you racing in any of the other stuff I stream? I get a bit confused by the names. Okay.
Currently, just Wednesdays. That's all I do. Only racing I got time for, unfortunately. So jumping Wednesday, just about the rest.
Okay, then we'll see Maggot back on Wednesday night, and possibly we'll see him earlier in the comment section in some form. But thank you very much for joining, and
Thanks again.
you're not mic shy, so if you ever have time and you want to commentate on a race, let me know. I'll bring you into the comms box, and we'll have a bit of fun. So thanks for joining, and hopefully we'll speak soon. Cheers.
Cheers. Ciao.
I want to thank everybody for joining the stream this evening. Did have a few issues with the stream right in the beginning, but it seemed to have sorted itself out. I had a bit of buffering, it was worrying me, but we got into qualifying and everything was fine. Then with just 2 minutes remaining in the qualifying session, everything went horribly bad. The lobby crashed in a very bad way, and we had to get things going again. We did so in the form of a one-shot quali. That shuffled the order a little bit. And then we had a race of multiple safety cars. A race that must have been difficult for all the drivers rather, just to get into tune, get into that racing mood when a safety car comes out every 2 or 3 laps to break the concentration. So everybody who completed the race, everybody who took part, congratulations, well done. Just getting to the checkered flag is an achievement in itself. And if you finished in the top 3, fantastic drive from everybody. I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to see the viewers and see the comment section bouncing a little bit again. I'll be back tomorrow night with DRS on F123. Can't wait to get rid of that game. But until then, DRS Thursday night, SKR Sunday night, and SAFRL returns next week, Monday and Wednesday. Cheers.